Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Reps, Virtual Reality, First Down Playbook, Rack Coach, Tip of the Spear, The Top Hopper, and Sports Workbook. We got Coach Corey Fipps on today. Thank you, Bill Best, my friend, for hooking me up with Corey. But, Coach, for everybody that's watching today, tell us a little bit about yourself, Coach, and where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in Northern California. I had the opportunity to play some community college football out there and ended up on scholarship at a Division II school in Arkansas, Harding University. And it was a life-changing experience. You know, I got to leave the state of California and get a degree and meet some great people and met my wife there and had the opportunity to coach a little bit of private high school football in Texas for a couple years. And while my wife was in chiropractic school, and then had a chance to go back to my alma mater and be the offensive line coach at Harding University for 2 seasons, and really wanted to call plays. And then from there went to Faulkner University, an NAI program in Montgomery, Alabama, where we were the #1 offense in the country and led the nation in passing. And that was pretty awesome, but had a chance to leave there and go back to California for a season and kind of got on the coaching carousel. Spent a year at Sacramento City College and then at Montana Tech, another NAI institution, and left there and ended up at Belhaven University in Jackson, Mississippi with Hal Mummy for a year. And it was really the only year I didn't get to call the plays. And it was awesome being there with Yoda, but at the same time, I was ready to go on and do something else, and ended up at Missouri Southern in Joplin, Missouri for 2 years, NCAA Division II school for a head coach named Denver Johnson, who, when he hired me, he said, I don't want no bleeping air raid coach, but I'm hiring you. And I thought, well, that's a little bizarre, but we spent 2 years together. It was pretty awesome and learned a lot. Denver had been the offensive line coach a bunch of different places, Oklahoma, Mississippi State for Jackie Sherrill when Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator. So I learned a lot of football working for that guy for 2 seasons. And then really you don't get to really be the dad you want until you're the head football coach, because then you can decide when staff meetings are and recruiting events are. So I took the job at Kentucky Christian University as the head football coach, my first gig. Became the athletic director there as well. Small college football, it's like being the athletic director and head football coach at some 3A school in East Texas. You got to do it all. And they promoted me the vice president of enrollment. And so I was the AD, the head football coach, VP, the janitor, the GA, did a little bit of it all. And we had a spring season there, COVID season, the NAI. We decided it'd be great to play winter football. They called it spring football, but when you had ice storms in eastern Kentucky, it was definitely winter. And went 6-2, best season they'd ever had at Kentucky Christian. And a little school right down the road, the University of Pikeville in Pikeville, Kentucky, called me and said, hey, we'll pay you more just to do one job. And I thought that was a great idea. So we came down here, got hired. We got hired late in the game. I guess I got my staff pulled together about July 15th of 2021. And the kids got here August 1st, and we went 4-5 in that first season in a reduced COVID year. And then this last year, in our first full year, we went 6-4, which was just about the 6th winning season in school history. Done a lot of cool things here, led a nation in passing this year. We do run the football. I do make that disclaimer. We've had the first team all-conference running back 5 out of 6 years as a head coach. So we do run it, but we like to sling it when the opportunity presents itself. So we're going into year 3 and really excited about the group of kids we have and what they've done.
When you were at Montana Tech, Coach, I had Bob Green on the show. Talk a little bit about coaching with Bob Green, Coach.
Well, I didn't get to coach with Bob Green, so it was even better.
Oh, you didn't?
Bob Green was basically the chief fundraiser for athletics. I worked for Chuck Morrell, who's the defense coordinator at the University of Washington with Kalen DeBoer now. And I can tell you something. Everything you see on YouTube about Bob Green is completely toned down. Okay, like the real Bob, like if you had the chance to hang out with Bob for a day, like you'd pick, 5 head football coaches, he would have to be one of them. He is just hilarious. Great guy. Stories about him standing in the middle of the field, telling the good Lord to strike him down with some lightning. See, guys, we're
Sounds
good.
like me.
Yeah, we're good. No lightning. We're good. So he's, there's a bunch of rated R and NC-17 stories about Bob. I can't tell, but great guy. Done really well for himself, being a small town guy from Nebraska and really transformed that program into what it is today. Coach Morrell and the guys that have come after him, Coach Sampson, done a great job. Bob really put that on the map as far as a small college engineering school and destination for guys.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Avocado. All right. I don't eat avocados. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I'm the low man on the totem pole. Coach, you're from California. Coach, you probably ate avocados. I mean, I don't think it has much taste. So would you like to comment from Mr. Avocado here, Coach?
Yeah, Mr. Avocado. I'm an avocado fan, man. So we throw him down in our house. And, once upon a time, Tom Selleck was the largest avocado farmer in the state of California. Don't know if that's still true.
Wow.
The legend once upon a time.
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI.
Great mustache. Probably the best mustache of all time, Coach.
All time.
Yeah. So, Coach, Bill Best hooked me up with you. How do you know Bill, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So Billy got his start in high school in Louisiana, and then ended up at Ranger Community College, their junior college there in Texas before they dropped their program. Then ended up working for a guy, Donnie Carthel, out of West Texas A&M. And we were at Harding, and we went to a few air raid clinics together. And, I think I bought him some barbecue once, and I can't get rid of him now, So we've been friends a long, long time. And he's really helped me along the way. He's had a great journey at a bunch of different places, West Texas A&M and Central Arkansas, and now at Colorado State and Nevada prior to that. And, so he's kind of like me, got a start in the air raid, but has really advanced the run game and some different things to complement the passing game. So Billy and I go on vacation every summer. Last year was in Colorado. We've been to the Grand Canyon with our kids and wives and a bunch of places, and headed to the Bahamas. So 2 fat guys in the Bahamas. Don't know how this cruise is going to go, but I'll let you know after a week of being with Bill.
Yeah, Mr. Avocado, we love your channel. All right. I might even eat an avocado or eat guacamole because of you. I love your picture there. That is amazing. All right. So, Coach, I had Tony Franklin on here and Billy Mills. I don't know if you know Coach Mills. He's the best football coach in Virginia. And, I mean, that was such a treat. And, I've known people that coach with Hal Mummy. I knew Mike Fanoga that coached with him at University of Kentucky.
Yeah, so the Tony Franklin thing's kind of interesting because when I was a high school coach down in Texas, got hired at a little private high school because I wasn't certified. Talked to all these Texas high school guys. They're like, yeah, you can coach freshman football for 4 or 5 years, and then coach JV football for another 4 or 5 years, and then maybe get a chance to be a varsity coach. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be in Texas 2 years while my wife's in chiropractic school, and then we're out of here. I want to coach some ball. I just got done being a graduate assistant at Harding. And so I got the chance to, work for a guy who said, it was kind of the heyday about 2005, 6 of Coach Leach out of Texas Tech. And then those guys at West Texas A&M were really slinging at small college. And I had played against Dusty Bonner in college, who was the Harlan Hill winner at Valdosta State twice for Chris Hatcher. So I knew the stuff worked. I knew they beat us down in the regular season a couple times. And so I was really interested in the air raid stuff. So we went out to West Texas to see those guys at West Texas A&M small college. We went out to Texas Tech to see Coach Leach, Valdosta to see Coach Hatcher. And then Tony started pushing the Tony Franklin system. So we thought, bang for the buck, let's start going to these Tony clinics. So really, I got my start in the Tony Franklin system and coaching that at First Baptist Academy in Dallas, Texas, downtown. My classroom was on the 11th floor of a high rise, kind of a crazy deal. And really the way I got back into college was really due to Tony. A guy I had played with in college died from a roadside bomb in Afghanistan. We're going back to retire his jersey at Harding University, Micah Gifford. And, the coaches that I played for said, hey, we're going to be part of this Tony Franklin system thing and see if we can get a great quarterback we got on the roster, David Knighton, up and going. And he ended up being an All-American when we went back there with the Tony Franklin system. So I kind of got my start in that, and then shot some kind of Bush League championship productions, coaches videos. Coach Mummy and his son and Mason Miller saw that and said, hey man, you kind of know this stuff, and Coach Mummy's going to take this job at Belhaven, and he needs an offensive line coach. So that's really how I kind of got with Hal, was kind of strangely through Tony and the Tony Franklin system. Me and Tony still talk from time to time. Love his podcast. He's wild. Nobody like him.
Yeah, Coach. I never met him, but I mean, he is a Kentucky guy where you are now. Yeah. And he told a little bit about his story. It was excellent. And Coach, do you know Billy Mills, the coach at Dinwiddie? He's a big Tony Franklin guy.
Yeah, I knew Billy and some of his assistants just from the clinics, going to Nashville and Dallas and different places. They had a lot of success running Tony's version of the air raid and the system, a lot of years there. And a bunch of those guys have gone on to be head coaches and coordinators and college guys too from that Dinwiddie staff.
Yes. So Mr. Avocado, I'd love to talk to you. Hit me up on Totem Pole Nation, at Totem Pole Nation, and we'll talk to you. We'll get you hooked up with Mr. Lucky or the Macho Man, Coach. I mean, this is like Barstool, the Jerky Boys. Coach, I love the Jerky Boys.
Yeah, I mean, if you grew up in the 90s, man, you got to be a Jerky Boys guy.
They were the best. So he says he can make me laugh, Coach. It's kind of hard to make me laugh, and he's an avocado, but hit me up, because right now I got to talk football. But, Coach, do you know Chip Lindsey? I had Chip Lindsey on. Chip Lindsey, Tony Franklin was very influential in his career too. So do you know Chip, Coach?
Yeah, I know Chip a little bit. We're friends. He, was a high school guy there at Hoover, Alabama. He got a start there with Rush Probst and Tony. They were clients and all those things. And then had an opportunity to kind of bust out with Gus Malzahn and kind of get into some buck sweep stuff too. And, so when he was the offensive coordinator of Southern Miss, I was at Belhaven and Jackson. So he'd come up, we'd have a sandwich and talk a little air raid football. And, he's done some big time things, been a head coach at a high level. And, I guess he's back there with Gus now, and, trying to get things going down there for those guys. So it's kind of interesting, when you talk to Chip, you can really get kind of two opposing offensive philosophies and the Gus stuff and then kind of the Tony Franklin air raid stuff, but he can make it mesh. He can really, kind of find places for both the run game of Gus's stuff and some of that passing game from the air raid.
Yeah, Coach, he's at North Carolina.
Now, that's right.
Coordinator.
With Gus real briefly. That's right.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, North Carolina went down there to watch them practice. Man, I mean, they got Clyde Christensen, Coach, walking around the sidelines as a volunteer. I mean, man, it's amazing. So you are a client of Tony Franklin and you work for Hal Mummy. I don't even know, Coach. I mean, I want to call y'all a cult, but I mean, what's the similarities? What's the differences, Coach?
Well, one of the greatest stories Hal will tell is we're sitting around one night having dinner, and he's a few bourbons in, and he says, Corey, the air raid is kind of like the movie Duplicity with Michael Keaton, if you've ever seen it. And I said, yeah, I've seen that, Coach. And he says, Coach Leach and Dana Holgerson, those guys, they're like that first generation clone. That clone is so much like Michael Keaton, the main character, that they can have sex with his wife and there's no difference. But by that third, fourth, fifth generation clone, they're drawing on themselves. And that's like you young guys in the air raid. You've screwed it all up. You're drooling on yourselves. So,
man,
I think what we've done, especially the small college levels, we've taken, some of this stuff and this cult and made it our own, for us at the places we've been. And, we've been places where we threw it for 60 times a game. And we've been places where we were pretty balanced with, leading the league in rushing. And, I think if you look across college football right now, you're going to find something that Mike and Tony and those guys and Hal have done in virtually every offense on a Saturday and even on a Sunday. And of course, what Tony did was take it to the high school masses across the nation And, it's all been morphed and changed and shifted over the years. But, the principles of running Y cross and mesh and stick and all those things that you can find on any game film you throw in when you're recruiting like we do, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to think what those guys have done, and sometimes I think for us, we're a lot more air raid. Like this last year, leading nation in passing, Kentucky Christian, we had a great running back, a couple offensive linemen. One just made it to camp with the Falcons. Another transferred to Cincinnati. He's going to be starting for the Bearcats next year at offensive guard. So, when you got offensive linemen like that and a great running back, you got to pound it a little bit. So, I think where we've seen kind of a shift back away from some of the RPO stuff is last year, our quarterback said, "Coach, can we just drop back and throw it?"
Yeah.
Like, I want to read the field, 1 through 5. And I'm like, "Are you serious?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right." And I turned the reins loose and went back to, 6 call, 4 verts and mesh and Y cross and all that stuff, and kept the running game, kind of intact, and ended up with an All-American running back. But, I think, if you look at a lot of guys, what they're doing with that old school stuff is you can find elements of it, but it's not as, not as pure as probably what Mike and Tony and, really Mike and Hal would have done. Tony really branched out and shifted. Yeah.
So when Coach Leach passed away, Coach, that really bothered me. I've never met him, but I was like, I had John Graves, who was one of my players. He was assistant strength coach for him at Washington State and at Mississippi State. And one thing John always told me about him was it's a good thing and a bad thing when you're a strength coach for Mike Leach. The reason that it's a good thing is that he doesn't care about the weight room. And it's a bad thing because he don't care about the weight room. So, it bothered me. And maybe because it was so unexpected, but he was so genuine. So, Coach, talk a little bit about Coach Leach.
I didn't have really a relationship with Mike, except, from the few times I met him from Hal and those things. But, what really shook me up was, they were doing a great job there. They were getting the culture shifted to what they wanted in terms of his system and the way they play football. And, you got all these assistant coaches on staff, and you got these staffers, and you got all these families connected to it. And you got to walk in and tell your family, hey, we got to find a new gig. It's time to go. And it's not because we won. It's not because we lost. It's really just because, a guy who's been a father figure to a lot of those coaches who played for him at Valdosta and Kentucky and Texas Tech and Washington State, he's gone. And I thought it was a big loss for a lot of people who really loved him. It was obvious. If you watched his memorial service, the people that spoke about him and the relationships. And, I think what really stuck with the rest of us was he wasn't just a football coach. He had so many different interests. And, you see the comment from, out of SEC media days the other day from Coach Saban about working 44 weeks out of the year. I don't believe Mike Leach ever worked 44 7-day weeks out of the year. So, and he did it his way and was really successful with it. And, I think he was a personality that's going to be sorely missed. It's going to be boring listening to some pressers, with no Mike Leach moving forward.
Yeah. And Bob Green too,
Yeah.
I mean, man, what two, those guys are, they're legends.
There's nobody, you can't name a NAI head coach like you can Bob Green. Everybody in America knows that guy from all the stuff. When we were at Montana Tech, it's an engineering school. The kids actually made an app, a Bob Green app. I don't know if it's still active, but it had a lot of his little lesser known quotes on it. It was hilarious.
Man, Coach. So I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I remember Kentucky Christian and, I never heard of Kentucky Christian, but I started seeing offers coming from Kentucky Christian and the brand being built and everything. So how many years were you there, Coach?
I guess I was there 4 seasons, almost 5 calendar years. It was a little known school, enrollment of about 480 kids. 430 of those were athletes. What people don't understand is a lot of these small colleges really drive their enrollment, fill the dorms through college athletics. I give you a little scholarship money and you're going to pay the rest in student loans and Pell Grants and get a degree. So we're really proud of what we did there. We felt like we created a culture that, that's really mirrored the mission statement of the university, being a Christian institution. And, it gave a lot of guys opportunities, coaches to move on and players to move on after we left. And so, yeah, it's kind of bizarre when you find these little truck stop towns with these little colleges. There's 730 plus 4-year universities that play football. Not all of us can be the head coach at Alabama or Ole Miss or, Virginia or wherever, but there's a lot of guys who don't need NIL dollars. What they need is a place to keep playing. They need a carrot that's going to get them to the finish line. They need an opportunity to keep playing. I don't know if I ever got a college degree if it weren't for football. My dad dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, came from a pretty rough family, but, just being forced to stay eligible for 4 years got me to the finish line. And,
amen.
So I feel like even the University of Pikeville, we're a little different. We've got a little bit going for us. It's a great town in cold country here with
my dad's from Appalachia.
Yeah.
I think that's from the other side of the mountain.
Exactly. And the coal fields here mean a lot to these people. And even though, the mines aren't open and rolling anymore to the same extent, we've got a med school, we've got an optometry school. We provide a lot to the mountains of, kind of third world America right here. And, so we're proud of bringing our kids here from all over the country. If you look at our roster, we have, kids from all over the place, America, Samoa, Idaho, California, Arizona. When we were at Kentucky Christian, our starting quarterback was a kid from Juneau, Alaska. So we bring them from all over, give them an opportunity to get a degree. And, our hopes is that, these guys, they're probably not going to get a chance to play in the NFL, right, at this level. You can just go back and look at a draft. Tell me how many guys have been drafted in the last 5 years from an NAI institution. And I don't think a single one. But for us, we want our guys to leave here with a degree. We want them to leave here with the opportunity to be successful. But, I want them to be good dads, good fathers. And a lot of people preach that. A lot of people preach the family model over the business model. I will tell you the family model is a lot harder than the business model. The family model says, don't get in the transfer portal. There's nowhere for you to go. You need to stay here. The business model says you're not getting it done. You got to go. We're going to use that scholarship dollars for somebody else. But for us, the hardest conversations you have are in that living room with your mom and dad and with grandma and grandpa. And we want the hard conversations to occur right here. We want the opportunity for these guys when they have a special needs child that they don't cut and run. When they're sitting in that waiting room with their wife to see if that's cancer or not, that they can be the rock of that family. And life's not easy. And I still believe that football creates an environment to create tough guys with an opportunity to be men. And, I think all this NIL stuff's great for those guys. And if our guys can get a little bit of that money, that's great here too. We have a few guys that got $1 or $2. But the whole reality is that college degree is what a high school diploma was for our mom and dad. You need one.
Mm-hmm. So, Coach, when you took that program over at Pikeville, you talked a little bit when we were on the phone about the culture piece. And would you like to talk a little bit about what were the challenges and what is y'all's culture about?
Yeah. So, I think some of our challenges were when we got here, the program through COVID, not being able to keep your thumb on the kids, some of those things that had gotten maybe a little bit loose. The previous head coach is still a friend of mine. So it's hard for me to say he didn't do some great things because some of these great players were coaching.
Yeah, stuff happens.
We're on the roster, but, there were some guys that just weren't accountable to each other. And there were some disciplinary issues in the community. There were some disciplinary issues on campus. Nothing crazy, nothing Title IX crazy, but just, stuff that in a small town, one horse town, you can't have those things. And so since we've got here, we haven't had a single, knock on wood, major disciplinary issue in the community. We haven't had a major disciplinary issue on campus. Our team GPA is one of the higher you'll find in the NAI, well above a 3.0. When we showed up here, it was a 2.3. We run our guys 5 miles at 5 a.m. for every class miss.
Woo!
Every study hall miss, or academic support miss, every weight room miss. It's pay the piper 5 miles at 5 a.m. Now, I'm a big girl. I'm about 6'7", 300 plus. And I can tell you, I've never run 5 miles at once in my entire life, maybe combined. but we really felt like, we want to make it pretty tough on them. And every strength coach we hire, I say, listen, I know physiologically it's not a good deal, but I want missing class to be so bad that these jokers never do it again. And so we feel good about it. Our guys put over 3,200 hours of community service this year. Our guys believe in being servant leaders. They believe in being out in the community. Everything from flood relief to, interacting at the schools. But I mean, anytime any little old lady calls me and needs anything, I've got 5-6 guys in the car on the way with a young coach to get it done. So we really believe in, the culture of our program is really, I don't want these guys to play hard for me. I mean, that's overrated. Playing hard for your head coach is overrated. I played offensive line in college. I played hard for those 4 guys around me. And I played hard for those guys to back those guys up. And those guys are still my best friends this day. And I coach every quarterback. I coach quarterbacks now and coordinate the offense as the head coach. And I coach every kid on this team like he's an offensive lineman. And there's sometimes that can cause some issues. There's some kids who don't like that, especially in today's day. But, I believe if you want to be treated fair, then you got to really, quite honestly, let me treat every guy different. And everybody's got different situations. That's life. That's life. If fair is life, and then the world's going to treat you different, it's going to treat me different. And so, but all our guys know the one thing that's not different is that we're all going to serve the community. We're all going to go to school. We're all going to be the right kind of people. And, hopefully I think they, learn something about that leaving here. And, at first there were some guys that really bucked that. We ran them out of here. But since then we've had great retention. There's little colleges all over the country got to sign 60, 70, 80, 100 kids a year. We're about like a Division I signing class, 20, 30 guys is what we need to fill out our roster here. Our guys don't leave. They stick it out, good or bad. They're in it for each other. And going back to, I don't want them to play hard for me. I want them to play hard for each other. I think we've really started to build that brotherhood, that community culture here that I think every head coach strives for. But sometimes when you're cutting corners to get that one win, to push you to the next level, sometimes that brotherhood can come unraveled. And I believe from my experience at Harding University, it's kind of a cult itself. I learned a lot about that selflessness. So that's really what we try to instill in our coaches. Most of the coaches we hire are either guys that played for us or come recommended to me from Bill Best or somebody like that. We're pretty particular about who we bring in and what their motives are. I think one of the things that's hurt coaching is every Division I staff has 80 off the field guys. Do you want a logo at the University of Kentucky to walk around at the convention, or do you want to actually coach? Do you actually want to be impactful to somebody's life?
Yeah.
And those are the guys we're looking for right now in our program as coaches and as players.
It's funny you said that, because after I left the convention this year, I looked about homeless. I didn't even pay. I just walked in there and started walking around.
Good for you. Stuff. They charge us enough.
Yeah, coach. I just walk in and people are like, "Who are you? How are you doing, coach?" I was like, "Coach," I was like, "What is this?" I was like, what is this? What is this place? It was funny, coach. But I want to take a guy, and I think I found him, and I want to put like a Notre Dame shirt on him. And every day I just want to put a different shirt on this. I got a 21-year-old kid. I'm going to do it. He's in Jacksonville. I don't know where the convention is next year, but we're going to video him. And we're going to see how many coaches come up to him with a Miami shirt, and then coach, we might even like throw in a small college in there and see what the difference is, or maybe no logo. What do you think, coach? How do you think the experiment will go?
I love it. I think we know how it'd go.
Man.
I love those guys that as you're talking to them, they're looking over your shoulder. They're looking over your who's out there that I can mix and mingle with, which I don't belittle those guys that want to chase this thing to the highest level. But I think it really goes back to, what is your motives? Are your motives to coach college football or high school football, middle school football, peewee football, or is it to make an impact in someone's life like someone made in yours? And I think those are the tough questions you got to ask when you get in this profession. And, I was talking to somebody the other day. So many good coaches have gotten out because of, COVID, whether it be a high school coach that was just burned out and he's going to go sell insurance or sell pharmaceuticals to make a few bucks because he's sick of it. So I think it's happened at all levels, and back in the old days, you put a job on Football Scoop, you're going to get 200 resumes of some really, really good coaches. You put it out there now, it's a fraction of that. And it's guys who really don't want to coach, and my guys here, when we take over a program, my coaches understand, my office looks okay now, but they all painted it with me. We got right in here and got some paint and laid some carpet and did some things and made it okay. And same thing in our locker room. It looks like a Division I locker room, but I'm going to tell you, there was a bunch of young coaches and old coaches that had to take some ibuprofen the next day because they were on their hands and knees, painting and pulling up old lockers. And to me, there's too many guys right now that aren't willing to get their hands dirty. To coach small college football, you got to be willing to do some things like a high school coach would. And I still think there's some beauty in that. And I'm not saying guys like Bill Best have it made now at Colorado State, but those guys do have a different set of problems than we have at this level.
Yeah, Coach. So the passing game. I don't know if you know Bobby Bentley, but I had Bobby Bentley on here, Coach. God,
I only know like 6 guys in the profession. You've named them all today.
Well, Coach, I've been blessed. I've been blessed. We've only been doing these since January. And, I had Bobby Bentley on there, and we weren't supposed to talk about X's and O's. But as soon as we got on there, boom. He just must have left a camp. And, he's right into it, going over everything. He didn't even draw anything up. So the first thing I asked him was, Coach, what would be the first play you would put in? What would be the first thing that you would do? Like me, I throw uncovereds to 1 and 2. That's the first thing I start off with. If you can't throw look pass or uncovered, man, you're in trouble. If you're a high school coach and you're taking a high school job, what would be the first thing you do to work on the passing game, Coach? And I'm talking about the first thing.
Yeah. So what's interesting is Bobby interviewed me when I was a young coach coming out of being a GA at Harding when he was a Presbyterian. So
man, he's something.
With him. The next week, he left being the head football coach to go back to be the offense coordinator at Burns High School. So
how is he not got a job? Is he got that dude? I don't know why Virginia Tech ain't hired him.
Yeah, he's a great coach. But Coach, if you go back to what you're saying about the passing game, we still do the 3-day install. Now we've got some odds and ends we got to get installed by the first game, but we come into camp this year August 2nd. Okay, we play our first game August 26th. So we got about 3 weeks, like a high school coach, to get it up and going. Now we can't keep all of our guys in the summer. We keep a good little crew in the month of July to kind of get them in shape. But a lot of our kids, they got to go home, make some money, pay off their student bill, whatever we didn't cover here scholarship wise. So we got to be up and going quick. And for me, I can't really think about one play. I can tell you what listen to David Shaw, at Stanford, he at the AFCA one year, and he talked about when it was nut cutting time, you better go back to day 1 install. And that's what we believe too. So very first day, the concepts we're going to put in is, obviously we're going to put in our base, protection for our offensive line, but we're going to put in our inside zone platform is what I would call it. So off that inside zone platform, we can throw the zone RPO, we can run the zone read, we can run split zone, we can run the zone RPOs off that split zone with all the attachments out of 2x1 with the bangs and the double slants and all the stuff everybody likes to do RPO wise. And we're going to put in our quick screens or our fast screens, throwing, to the number 1 receiver, bubble, or the back, that whole package. And we're going to put in mesh, 92 as the air raid guys would call it. We're going to put in mesh, we're going to put in 4 verticals, and we're going to put in Y stick. And that's the first day. Now that sounds like a lot, but when you only run certain things out of 2, 3 formations, it all kind of goes together. Now we can run the stick off the backside of the zone on the zone RPO. We can, tag. We can put those screens on the backside of the zone. So the quarterback has the opportunity. Everybody wants to call that an RPO. To me, that's pre-snaps, not an RPO for us. We're dual call instead of having,
like a good box, bad box, like a good box, bad
exactly.
box.
We tell our guy quarterbacks, we don't want Peyton Manning. We don't want Tom Brady. I'm old school. I want John Stockton. I want a point guard that can get out there and he can find a 3-on-2 fast break right now. And if it's 3-on-3, he's going to back the ball out and run the offense. And that's kind of the way we work. So that's our day one install. And really, I've always felt like we could go into week one and run that. We could run that and nothing off day 2, day 3, and none of your specialty plays. Or Denver Johnson guy I worked for was about 6'7", 6'8", about 370, and he used to say, we need some boutique plays. We need some boutique plays. And I said, Coach, it's hard for me to take a guy serious from Bow Legs, Oklahoma, using the word boutique. But so for us, we want to get those things in day one, and then obviously the day 2, day 3 things are important too. But I think it goes back to the principle of the air raid was, let these kids' muscle memory take over. Don't confuse them. Let's play fast. Let's get going. Now we will slow the tempo down a little bit, and we still don't huddle, but I don't believe you can go fast all the time necessarily. Got to get into the right play at times. But if we can limit what our kids have to really think about, I'm going to be honest. We still have some kids at this level that they're not rocket scientists. So a playbook this thick, we still don't even give a playbook. We make them write it all down and figure it out in the meeting room. And then every Tuesday, it's the same routine. Every Wednesday, it's the same routine. Thursday is the same routine. And on Saturday, they're like, holy crap, I made a great play there. I'm like, yeah, man, that was just, settle drill. That was just, pat and go. That's the stuff we've done your whole career here, and your body just took over.
Yeah, Coach. So how do you, everybody says they want to be balanced. So some people think that means throwing the ball 50% of the time and running the ball 50% of the time. But balance means you're able to do whatever it takes to win, right? How do you feel about that, being balanced?
Well, that's exactly right. We won a game a lot of years back now, 95-89, and everybody, we were pretty balanced in that game. And, we were balanced with the bad guys, and we just scored one more touchdown. But, if you look at, what we've done here, we're throwing for 350 a game. When we were at KCU, we were running for 230 a game. And I think for me, balance means you do what your kids can do. Balance means you're attacking the defense with what they give you. The defense decides whether you run it or throw it. Okay. Mm-hmm. If they're getting in a 5-man box, we're going to run it. If they're loading that joker and we've got our best receiver on a guy that, can't play dead in the Western out there, you better take advantage of it. And so for me, I've always, felt like the defense is going to tell you what you have an opportunity to do. Now there's times you got to force it. You got to get the numbers right schematically, but we do use a tight end and some 12 personnel and those things, but we still at the heart of hearts are a 10 personnel spread offense. And so for me, I think when you do that, people got to tip their hat. I still come back to the greatest formation in football is 2-by-2. 2 receivers on each side, 1 back. The defense has got to be symmetrical. And when they're not, they're going to give you an opportunity to get the ball someplace. So, some people love, 20 personnel, 2-back, 2-by-1 sets. It's the best of both worlds. You got 2 running backs, could even use a tight end in that spot and 3 receivers. Yeah, that sounds good. But to me, they can always get 1 more than you can block if they really wanted to. So, but when you're 2-by-2 and you keep it symmetrical, for our quarterback especially, you'll see on 3rd and 4th down, we're going to be in 2-by-2 a whole bunch.
Yeah, then it's just a numbers game.
It is.
When you talk to your quarterbacks, like I was watching this quarterback training. When you got 2 receivers out there and you got 3 guys over top of them, they probably have the ability to cover whatever, you're running. I guess that's what's a great play about mesh, because there's a rub. So like, how do you talk to your quarterbacks about that? Like Coach Mills says, he talks about grass. Like, how do you coach your quarterbacks on, what side to work or whether to throw the RPO or not?
Yeah,
It's kind of a very big question.
for us, I think it depends on the concept, but we go back to the grass concept. Where's the grass? Where's the space? And we don't check out of many plays because we got a bunch of stuff dual called when you got screens on the outside, you've got inside or outside zone, or if we call power out of two back, we're always going to have a stick route out there to try to protect us from the overhang. And we've got to make some calls and do some stuff when they bring one off the edge, but we don't check out of things much. So one thing we really talk about with our quarterbacks is live to play the next play, live to play the next down. Like don't take risks. If you think that's going to be fuzzy or gray, then we've got something built in to take advantage of. And we one word a lot of stuff. So Bill Blyle's offensive line coach at Stephen F. Austin, but Bill's been a lot of places. He was the O-line coach at Iowa State when Tom Herman was the OC. And when I worked for Denver Johnson, Denver wanted all in his verbiage. I couldn't use my terminology, which really screwed me up because I was such a product of my own doing, all those years running my stuff. And just I was out of sorts. He said, just one word, everything. And tell him it's what he thinks it is. Like, oh, coach, this is this, and this. But we're going to call it Bronco. And so that's basically what we did. And it really helped me. So even here now, we've got a lot of one-word calls when we go fast. And I tell the quarterbacks, hey, I don't want you to think much when that one-word call is coming in. But when I start using a bunch more verbiage, if, I'm going to call in, ace, F bullet 68 right H option, you got to think a lot. That almost sounds like some West Coast stuff. That's about half of a West Coast call. I get it. But, for us, we just try to tell the quarterbacks based on the length of a call, the verbiage. You're going to have to think a little bit more on certain calls. But, I think our quarterback success has been pretty good here. We had two quarterbacks last year. We've got one kid who's, 6'5", 260 pounds. Looks like the right-handed Jared Lorenzen out there. Man. And, he found a lot of success the way he did it. And we had another kid, Xavier Malone, who, is about 6'1", about 190. And he found some success in the way he did it. But if you looked at them statistically, they were almost identical. And so we've gotten to the point in our system, I feel like, we led the nation passing with two quarterbacks basically splitting time, splitting starts just because of injuries. And they did it completely different. It's kind of some validation that for me at least, that what we've done with the air raid in our system has allowed multiple styles of quarterback to have similar success to help our team be successful. And so we don't have to have the singular, type of guy to be successful in our system now.
Do people still throw the ball without the laces? I know that was a big deal back with Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. We talk about on the quick screens, not, don't fool with the laces, grip and rip it, get it out. But, we don't talk about it much. I'll be honest. I don't talk much technique with our quarterbacks. We work some footwork. I don't try to change mechanics.
Yeah.
If I've gotten you at this point, one, I'm an old offensive line coach, old offensive lineman, as a player myself. And so like the kids, they're like, coach, throw the football. I'm like, nah, you're never going to see me throw the football. Like I said, listen, there's two things you'll never see: me naked and me throw the football. So like for our guys, like we recruit what we want. And if you can't do it, then you probably should find a different place to play. Now, luckily our quarterbacks have stuck it out and figured it out. But mechanics are not my jam. And that's really my shortfalling as a coach.
But coach, you got these quarterbacks and they look like robots. Like they try to be perfect in everything they do. And like, that's not the way the game's played.
I've had a few camp quarterbacks too, that trick pony that, He was like the guy that used to take the golf ball and bounce it off the head of the club for 5 minutes straight. Like, can that guy play golf? I don't know. He probably can, but like, we get some of these quarterbacks. We've had some Division I transfers come down to us at this level from Pac-12 programs and from Conference USA programs. You would think those cats could really get it done at the NAI Division II level, and they couldn't. They just weren't ball players. And we take these other kids. We had an All-American quarterback, Josh Hollingsworth from Alabama. His hands were so small that if the day we were practicing, it rained, I had to cancel practice. He couldn't hold a wet ball. He shelved it. And the worst mechanics probably of anybody I've ever coached, but he threw 44 touchdown passes in 10 games. And, so there's just something about being able to be accurate. And, one of the things when we used to have some NFL guys that on our rosters and these scouts would come through, I always asked them, because I was always the guy that had to deal with them and eat all their donuts. And when they'd come in to check these dudes out, I'd say, so there was Miami's Dolphins guy a couple of years ago, Missouri Southern, about 8 years ago I was there. I said, hey, like, give me something, about evaluation. I don't feel like I'm a great evaluator, and especially of quarterbacks. And he said, well, hey, we brought in Peyton Manning the other day, and we asked Peyton Manning, what's the number one most important thing about quarterback play? He says, are they accurate? Not arm strength. Are they accurate? And that's the way we feel. If a kid isn't accurate coming out of high school, he's not going to be accurate for us, because that's just God-given and natural. Arm strength can get a little better. Footwork can get a lot better. Understanding of football and that football IQ can always improve. But, you were accurate at 9 years old throwing to your little sister in the backyard. You either were or you weren't. So we that's what we really shoot for, and looking for our quarterbacks in this system.
And I mean, it just makes me think about all these camps these kids go to and quarterbacks. You got to come to camp. We got to see you throw the ball. Like, does the kid win? And I mean, when the bullets are flying, like 7-on-7, this is a real football game and people are coming to hit you. Like, when the bullets are flying, do you play the same way? How do you play at the end of the game? That was the thing of like Bryce Young. I never thought Bryce Young, when I saw him that spring season, like right out of high school, I said, this guy's too small. But in the 2-minute drills, oh my gosh. Like, talk about that, Coach, like when the pressure's on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, we've had some guys that, like I said, have transferred from Division I schools and held a clipboard and looked like $1 million. And then, they get in the game and all of a sudden, because like we started the season last year, we played 3 quarterbacks week 1. We were playing against Kentucky Christian where I'd worked. And, so we said, I don't know who the starter is. So I'm going to play all 3 of these cats. And
you ain't got scrimmages.
Nah,
and
we don't.
You only got 3 weeks. You probably got new guys coming in, didn't have spring ball with them.
Yeah. And I gave them all 2 series and in the first half. And we got to the second half. I just said, all right, I'm going with the big kid. And Lee Kirkland, our big 6'5", 260 kid, and it was that. He was cool as the other side of the pillow. They're punching him in the face, and he's getting up, laughing about it, and saying, all right, call the next one. And led us down a stretch to open up 2-0 and then got banged up. But, I think there's a lot to be said for you just want winners. And I think, I heard some a while back when I worked at Harding University, we want guys that love football and hate losing. I thought, man, that's so simple, but isn't that the truth? Like, if you're okay with losing and you don't really love football, let's be honest, especially if you look out on Twitter right now in the recruiting process, these kids they're in love with being recruited. They're in love with all the hype they're getting, all the endorphin boost they're getting from all these likes and all these retweets and everybody telling them they're the greatest thing in the world. But when it comes down to it, nobody loved 2-a-days or 3-a-days when we were growing up, brother. Nobody loved it.
Nah.
On Saturdays with your dudes, you loved it. On Friday nights as a high school player, you loved it, or you weren't doing it. And I think we've lost a little bit of that. So, we try to really be selective in the recruiting process too, as much as we can at our level. There's some NAI D2, D3 programs. They just take everybody. I've been a part of them. Kentucky Christian was one of them.
Yeah.
Here, I sit right here and on this couch behind me when I've got a couple a kid sitting there with a couple parents and he's rude to mom, I'm like, ooh, gotta go. Or he's blaming the high school coach. Ooh, that's a big red flag. He's going to blame me too. He's going to blame my offensive line coach when he's not playing. He's going to blame the defensive coordinator when there's a bust in the secondary and not take accountability. So, these are all the things every coach is talking about with you, but they're truths. They're not half truths. They're not partial truths. They're absolute 100% truths about kids today. And I don't believe that football's changed or the world's changed or kids changed. I believe we're just in a different moment, and you got to accept it and find the kids that fit your program, which isn't always easy. We're not 100%. We get knuckleheads in here and we got to deal with them. But, we try to find kids that, like I said, love football, hate losing, and want to play for each other.
And no doubt, Coach. And I made some people upset. I don't know why they got upset, but I made a video about does the number of different college wristbands that a recruit wears, the more wristbands, does that mean the more offers or the more stars? Or, what's your experience, Coach, with this and all? Have you seen these kids that have?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've never heard anybody say it like that. Yeah, that's interesting.
What's the data? How many wristbands? What's the average number of wristbands that the first round picks wore when they were in high school? I'm sure Nick Saban and Bill Belichick know.
The one that kills me is I'm blessed to receive my 37th offer.
Oh,
and they're all NAI offers, D3 or D2. And I'm like, come on, brother.
After a point,
those are 37 ugly girls. I'm going to be honest. My wife's the only pretty girl to ever talk to me. Okay.
Man.
And so, but that's all I needed. Just one.
Coach, I agree. I totally agree. And I've seen guys from the Richmond area, they're offered by everybody in the country. Yeah. And they end up going, let's say, to Notre Dame, or they end up going to Maryland. They could have went anywhere. So, after a while, what's it really matter? Dude, you've been offered by everybody in the world. You got to pick one of them. I think sometimes too many choices is a bad thing, especially for me. Because if I got, what should I eat? I don't know. There's about 50 different things you can pick here.
I get real confused at the Cheesecake Factory, brother. That menu's too big.
Exactly, Coach. So I like less choices. I don't even make choices. How did I get here today? I don't know, Coach. So talk about that. All these different wristbands, and I'm blessed to receive this many offers. That has to turn you off, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it turns me off anymore because it's such the norm. It did initially, probably 5-6 years ago. It kind of upset me, or I was like, what is this? But now we're pretty brutally honest in our recruiting visits here with families, with young men, that if that's what you're searching for, if you just want one more offer, then we're not it. And so I think we just try to really see if it's a red flag, because sometimes that's not. Sometimes the kid's got a coach, a buddy, a cousin, an uncle, that's leading the kind of Twitter recruiting process. If Elon Musk tanks Twitter, I don't know what these kids are going to do for recruiting, man. It's crazy. We've got kids, I'll text them a message, no response. I copy paste it, put it in a DM in Twitter, and boom, they respond. I'm thinking, I know it's on the same device, but so we just try to do some legwork, see is that really the kid at heart, or is that somebody else leading the push? Because there's a lot of kids that are playing to, for their dad. Their dads are trying to live vicariously through them. And we talk a lot about this too, because a lot of the kids that are really successful for us are the kid that was going to be a walk-on at Virginia Tech. He was going to be a walk-on at Virginia, or wherever. And I tell them, I'm like, guys, listen, I don't know if you understand how many scholarship opportunities are available to you. At the FBS level, there's 85 scholarships that can't be split. At the FCS level, there's 63 that can be split up to 85. That means that you are, at very best, the 86th most important person in that program. I don't have to be the number one most important person in this organization, in this university, but I'm not 86th. And we talk about the 36 scholarships at the Division II level and the 24 scholarships at the NAI level and the, non-scholarship model of those FCS Pioneer League programs like Morehead State and Presbyterian and Stetson and so on, that there's a full scholarship cheerleader on that sideline, but not a full scholarship quarterback. And that if you want to come here, we can make it really affordable. And you can play a high level of football and get a good experience and travel the Southeast playing ball. So we just try to be really honest with kids, as much as we can. And I think especially in Virginia, the NAI is such an unknown. I guess there's Bluefield in Virginia. UVA Wise once upon a time was NAI, but we spend probably more time explaining to kids we are scholarship football. We are comparable to some other programs and those things more than anything.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, I tried to explain to Coach McNally about NAIA, and he didn't understand it. I was like, Coach, it's small college football. He's like, well, why are they not Division III? And I said, well, Coach, NCAA doesn't care about Division III or Division II. And he was like, yes, they do. I was like, no, they don't, Coach, because they don't make money for them. Like NAIA, Coach Bob Green said, is all about small college athletics. So talk a little bit about that. Answer that question, Coach. What is the NAIA?
So the NAIA is the National Association of Interscholastic Athletics or Intercollegiate Athletics.
Yeah, intercollegiate. Yep.
Yeah, we joke about it's the National Association of Ineligible Athletes. That's
when I played, it was.
Yeah, that's
they didn't have no rules.
We've got a med school, so we're not. Montana
yeah,
Tech
y'all got
engineering
rules.
School wasn't. Now Belhaven, I don't know. So for us, what we're trying to do here through this model is, the NCAA has become so expensive in terms of the off the field personnel you have to have in the athletic department. That it almost cripples some of these smaller universities. Georgetown College here in Kentucky, Bill Cronin was the president of the American Football Coaches Association. He was the head coach at NAI.
I remember that.
And so, our organization and people in the know of football understand who we are. But there's 94 programs right now that play in our division. We play in the Appalachian Athletic Conference. So we play Reinhardt from Georgia. We play St. Andrews from North Carolina. We play Point from Georgia, Bluefield, Kentucky Christian, Union from Kentucky. And then our crossover games with the Mid-South Football Conference next year, we play Campbellsville from Kentucky, Faulkner from Alabama, Georgetown College from Kentucky, University of Cumberland. So there's a lot of these teams in the Midwest. There's a lot of these teams out in the Pacific Northwest, like Montana Tech, Carroll, Montana, Southern Oregon, Eastern Oregon. There's a whole league in Florida now, the Sun Conference, with really good programs like Southeastern and Kaiser and Ave Maria and places like that. And, we've got 24 partial scholarships. We stack those on top of academics. So our kids end up, it's about $32,000 a year to go to school here. Books are free. If you look at that, that's well below the national average, but I can give you $20,000 on top of your academics, and you may or may not have to take out a student loan to go to school. So it's a pretty good deal. But back to your question, a lot of these schools are using athletics to really fuel their enrollment.
Yes.
So, that's why you look at some of these athletic departments and they have bass fishing and they have archery and they have these kind of e-sport, obscure sports. Plus they have all the mainstream stuff you and I grew up with: baseball, basketball, volleyball, softball, football. Our undergraduate enrollment here is about 1,200 students. About 60% of that is athletics. At Kentucky Christian, 83% of it was athletes. So the NAI has been around a long, long time. A lot of the really good Division II schools you look at right now, at one point in time, were an NAI program, and chose to stay at this level. And I think there's something to be said for being a part of an organization that's a little bit smaller and caters a little bit more to the institution's needs. Like, I'll put it this way, we're debating right now at our level, the NAI football level, there's a new football rule because the big dogs want to make money off commercials, correct? So they said our games are too long. The games are not too long. The commercials are too long.
Yes.
But they want more commercials to make more money at the NCAA, Power 5 levels. So we're going to now run the clock after a first down, right? You've heard this.
Yeah, well, like the NFL.
The NAI said, we've said as coaches unanimously, we don't like this. This isn't good for our kids. Shortening the games, you only get X amount of snaps in your life to play this game. Why would you take those away? We don't have a length of game problem because we don't have all these commercials.
Yeah.
So our organization is saying we use the NCAA rules, but this is one we're considering punting for at least a year. And I think there's some value to having an organization that looks what's best for a small college athlete, because, you know, nobody was in that conversation from Valdosta State. Nobody was in that conversation from North Carolina A&T. You know, those were big dog conversations. And, you know, these kids that are playing at this level deserve a voice, and their coaches deserve a voice when it comes to, you know, rules and regulations. Technically, we at the NAI level, we adopted a name, image, and likeness model long before the NCAA let it get to the Supreme Court. So now, are our kids making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars? No. But if a kid's got a great social media following, and, you know, 3 years ago he wanted to get out in front of it and try to make a few bucks, he could before any of these Cavender twins or you know, whoever were making these dollars.
Wow, you're exactly right, Coach. Coach, before we get off here, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you would like to say or cover, or anything you'd like to say to the high school coaches out there that may be watching or will watch?
Well, you know, I think obviously I always want to make a recruiting plug for our program, and we're just on the other side of the mountain from you, and you know, we're about 5, 6, 7 hours tank of gas. We can be from, you know, South Georgia to the Great Lakes, to St. Louis, to, you know, darn near to New York. So we'd love to get your kiddos here and have an opportunity to coach them. We've got a camp next week. We're 2 weeks from now, the 16th, we've got a prospect camp that Friday evening. We'd love to have some kids there. But I guess one thing I'd like to ask you a question. You ready to get interviewed?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, my friend Zach Hayden, who coaches at Patrick Henry Roanoke, he's already hit me up and said, "Can I get Coach's phone number? We got some kids."
Absolutely.
So it worked, Coach.
Coach, you can throw my cell number on here right now if you want. 334-322-2414. If anybody ever wants to talk ball, come up and visit. You know, spring ball, fall ball, whatever. And we're an open book. We'd love to have you. But I appreciate that. But what do you want the purpose long term would be of this deal right here?
Oh, the podcast.
Yeah,
it's the same thing that we do with our football program. Is number one, we want to change lives. We want to change lives because of this podcast. Like, we want to make a bigger impact than just talking football. Two, we want to help get people to the next level. You know, that's what we say to our players. We want to help get them to the next level, whatever that means. If that means go to college, go to Alabama, go to this school, that school, go to the military, go to trade school. And then three, we want to build champions for life. So that's kind of our mission. But I mean, heck, we only been doing them since January. And, you know, I'm not going to be able to do this during the season. But I'm going to shut it down at the end of July when we start camp, and then probably pick it back up after the season.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're doing a heck of a job, man. And I appreciate you having University of Pikeville and myself on. And like I said, if we can ever be any assistance to any coach out there, we'd love to do it.
Yeah, Coach. So I'm going to press end here, then we'll stay on and talk for a little bit. Okay, Coach?
All right. Sounds good, brother.